cut?
Because this is a ruler who is rapidly expanding his arsenal of biological and chemical weapons. This is a dictator who has used these weapons of mass destruction against his subjects and his...
Listen, I am broadly pro-Israel, all right? For the people who are like newer in chat, okay? I am broadly pro-Israel. There are a lot of criticisms to throw at Israel. Chief among them, this is a bad dude and has been disastrous for the state of Israel in terms of its reputation and its like position on the world stage. Holy shit. I cannot, for the life of me, find any defense of Netanyahu.
There is no question whatsoever that Saddam is seeking and is...
Yeah, I've heard of that, Pepe. I've heard that that was the case, and that the Rabin guy was probably the closest Israel had to like getting something done in terms of like a two-state solution for Israel-Palestine. He's not very popular. And the way their elections work is it's about coalition building. That's how the prime minister is chosen. I don't think you directly vote for Netanyahu. I think Netanyahu builds coalitions inside of the Knesset there. So, like, I don't think that he's been very popular in the past couple of years, and he's especially not very... I mean, fuck, there's probably polling on this. Israel... Netanyahu favorability. 2017, he's been unfavorable since at least, let's say, 2020. Why does it go like every 5? Well, 2013, 2015, that's 2 years. We got 2 years, and I guess they just didn't take any data for in between there. By 2023, he was unpopular. In 2024, he is very unpopular. Yeah, he coalitions with people who are more extreme than him. But, like, I don't think that that's much of an excuse at this point, like Netanyahu. Oh, I guess in 2023, it depends on when he was... I wish there was... something that had more... I wish we had more discrete data in between 2017 and 2023. And I'd also... or additional information. Oh, cool. I need to buy something. Absolutely not. I would be really interested to see if, like, the 2023... because I knew that there was, like, a lot of stuff going on with Bibi. I'm going to call him Bibi. Netanyahu is too many syllables, okay? There were a lot of things with Bibi that people were pretty upset about, and there were protests about him leading up to the October 7th attacks. I wonder if this was taken before or after October 7th. Yeah, that's probably true too, Pepe. Like, again, I'm broadly pro-Israel, right? I think that Israel has a right to defend itself. I think that, like, the Palestinians need someone other than Hamas or the PLO. They need someone who's actually, like, a peaceful dude to go in there and, make a sympathetic cause actually look sympathetic. Israel needs to get rid of Netanyahu. Holy shit. I'm sorry. Do you believe the Palestinians have a right to defend themselves? I mean, I believe in the right of self-defense. The thing that, like, every time I get into an argument about this with people with, like, the Palestine movement is, like, yeah, the Palestinians do have a sympathetic movement. The problem is the methods by people who are in leadership there, they jettison every bit of that sympathetic movement when they start doing, like, terrorist attacks, right? The best, like, organization that they have currently that I know of, there might be, like, some small group that I don't know about, okay? But the like, biggest issue is, like, the PLO being their best, pro-peace party is bad, because that group is super corrupt. Like, they're do you consider all the beeper bombs that Israel sent to Lebanon was a terrorist attack? I don't know if I would call it a terrorist attack. I've heard arguments for why it was bad. I just have very little sympathy for people who are part of paramilitary terrorist organizations. And that's what Hezbollah is. Like, they're not part, like, they have some seats in Lebanon's government, but like, they're not Lebanon's army. They were a rebel faction that was too powerful for Lebanon to tell them to get the out. And so they're just like there, you know? Why do you assume their attacks only hit Hezbollah? Because the pages were specifically like, they weren't governmental beepers. They were Hezbollah beepers. I've heard of some collateral damage that happened as a result of that, but like, in terms of how specifically you can target Hezbollah members, like, beepers given out only to Hezbollah members blowing up is probably as targeted as you can get with a remote attack, you know, even with a like ground invasion. Personally, I don't even believe that for an instant. Well, which part? Because if there's something that I don't know about, I'm totally willing to change my opinion on something. But I don't believe they targeted that specifically. Well, if they're beepers that are meant specifically for Hezbollah members, they got a shipment of those and somehow sabotaged them, and they went to Hezbollah, you know, like, members. How can you control the beepers after they enter a foreign country? They were going off in public places and stuff. Well, I mean, like, they were going off in public places, but like, if you've seen the videos, there were people standing like 2 feet away from these dudes, and they weren't injured. You know, the damage was highly limited to like who was holding them. And there are some really up stories of like a kid hearing the beeper going off and trying to bring it to their dad, and their hands getting blown off. Like, that's obviously super up. I saw a lot of bystanders getting hurt in videos. I mean, I haven't read anything about it since like 3 or 4 days after it, you know. But in terms of collateral damage, I didn't hear very much about it. Like, the worst injuries and the majority of the injuries were to the people who had them on their belts. And terrorism has like a very fluid definition depending on who's talking about the terrorism. For me, when I talk about terrorist, I think that it has to be and I think that a government, like actual state, can be like a state sponsor of terrorism, or like a terrorist state itself. Like, look at ISIS, right? Like, they had a state for a little bit. But the issue is, like, I think that when it comes to terrorism, I think that specifically attacking civilians is a necessary requirement. Like, if some military is targeted and some police is targeted, that's like if you want it to be like a truly non-terroristic attack, you got to have like no focus on civilians. Civilian casualties might happen in a military conflict, but like, for it to be terrorism, you have to be targeting the civilians. But like, I haven't seen anything that shows that there were civilian targets, you know? So do you think this means no? I think that you also have to, like, even by international law, you have to be like active military. Just because someone's a veteran or is like off duty doesn't mean that they're a legitimate military target. Right. But like, unless someone gives me information, and if you have information, or if you can link me something, right? Like, if you have some sort of information that's going against something that I'm saying, that it was like highly targeted towards Hezbollah people, like, yeah, I'll change my opinion. But like, everything that I've seen and heard about this is that it was, you know, the presumption that the targets were civilians is extremely flawed. Yeah, they were literally like members of Hamas, or not Hamas, Hezbollah. And because they were members of Hezbollah, like, that doesn't mean that they're, you know, members of the like government, right? Like, government bureaucrats, right? Like, if someone works for the ATF, I don't think that makes them a legitimate target for like open warfare with Russia, right? Do you think Israel's been committing acts of terrorism? I think that there's a good argument for it at this point, yes. Okay. Just so you got, like, I know we have this article right here, and I know that there's new people in chat and there's questions being asked of me, but I'm gonna have to end stream very soon. Girlfriend got home, time to cook dinner. All right. But yeah, Pepe the Jonkler, there was a lot of like terrorism both towards the Jews and from the Jews and towards the Jews. Everyone was terrorist attacking everybody in the early 20th century over in that area. Okay, 1945, yeah, like the early 20th century, or do we consider that the mid? I guess you could call that the mid. Like when I'm thinking of like the early 20th century, I'm thinking like everything leading up to the and through World War II. And then post World War II, I would consider the mid 20th century. And then like I would say like 80. Like this is just like the way my brain like splits these things up. I don't have any rationalization other than it was revealed to me in a dream. Let me see here. Even assuming that only Hezbollah members were using the radius of pages at the moment of the attacks, does that mean that they shall be presumed to be combatants and therefore lawful targets? Under AHL, a combatant is a member of the armed forces of a party to the conflict. All organized forces, groups, and units which were under a command responsible to that party for the conduct of its subordinates are protected from the attack. My understanding is that, before I read this, let me just say this really quick before I continue, just to see if I'm right. My understanding is, like, there is no non-military wing of Hezbollah. I'm pretty sure that, like, they're all, you know, expected to serve in some military capacity at some point. Am I wrong about that? Like, they can be called up to serve, but I could be wrong about that. Was the settler movement? I mean, yeah, but, like, again, I don't think that condemns the entire state of Israel. It just means that, like, obviously the Likud party and Netanyahu need to get the out. Okay. For example, the planning of attacks against Israel. Oh, shit. So civilians may lose protection from an attack under international law for such time as they take direct part in hostilities. This includes conduct like the intentional killing of civilians and carrying out attacks which adversely affect the military capacity of a party to an armed conflict. For example, the planning of attacks against Israel. Oh, shit. Let me ask you this. Suppose Hezbollah did this to Israel. Would you support it or think it was terrorism? What if they did it to us? Well, if they did it to us, we're not a direct, like, member of this, like, we're not a direct party to this conflict. So if they did it to us, it would definitionally, in my opinion, be terrorism. I would have to think about it when it comes to Hezbollah doing it to Israel, depending on how they did it. Like, again, if they're attacking, like, military targets, I don't consider that terrorism necessarily. But if it was, you know, if these were, like, government bureaucrats who were, like, part of, like, the agriculture, you know, department of, you know, what if Russia did it to our, well, we're not at war, so it wouldn't be terrorism if Russia did it to our military members stateside. It would just be an act of war.